Aurelio, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here in my podcast.
Well, yeah, for me, Daniel, it's a great pleasure to be here. And talking of wines is always so nice. It's my passion, so I have no problem to speak for hours. If it's wine, the main topic.
You're from Chile, and for most Germans, Chile is so far away. It's such a far country, and it's like the opposite of Germany. The terroir, the people, the land, everything is so much different.
Well, yeah, it's far away, but I don't know who is the one that is far, if it's ourselves or it's you, but we're in different opposite parts of the world. Maybe you are the ones that are too far, not ourselves. But yeah, we are far. That's true. In the southern hemisphere, Chile is a real paradise to grow grapes. It's a place that is fantastic because without being geographically speaking, it's not an island. It is totally isolated, by very strong and big, powerful natural barriers like the Andes Mountains, the Pacific Ocean, our northern desert that is the most dry spot on earth, and then the southern Patagonia that is all about ice. So at the end, we don't have much problems to grow vines in a healthy way, to produce good wines coming out of those great grapes that we cultivate every year.
How did it all start for you, building up this winery?
Well, actually, my story is quite long. I've been for a long time in the winemaking. I studied agronomy and enology in the Catholic University in Chile. And then for 16 years, I worked for two big companies, as a winemaker, Viña Montes and Viña San Pedro, quite well-known big wineries. And funnily enough, after 16 years, there's a change in the ownership of the company for which I was working for, Viña San Pedro. And the new boss, the new owner, brought his team, technical team, commercial, financial team. So I found myself 39 years old and 5 kids at home, jobless, no job. I was totally fired. So it was a very hard moment that I lived in my life, of course, with such a responsibility of a big family. And then I had two options. One is re-employ myself in another winery. I was pretty well known at that stage after 16 years of working in the business. People knew me already. I had traveled a lot. I could help a lot of a winery. But my second dream was to create a winery producing only high-level quality wines. That's something that was not made in Chile ever. So my decision at the end was the second option, that was create my own winery, create my dream. And as I say, and my thinking is that the dreams are to be fulfilled. You don't sit upon a dream. You go for it and you do it. So we started with some other partners, with Montes, and started very shyly in a small project, a little winery to create quality wines. And suddenly, after 30 years that we have been already, in the market, we're one of the 4 most important wineries in Chile. Maybe one of the most prestige one, with a very high level of image or prestige of our wines. So it's been a very happy story to end with.
Wow, hey, that's really a nice story. And especially with 39, having no money and just this only way that is like, I go full in, or maybe I do it for another winery. But I really appreciated that you did what you did, because now your wines are all over the world and they are really appreciated and very, very good. So for sure, in the age of 39, when you started this winery, you were probably not the only winery in Chile. There were other wineries. Was it like you looked to the other wineries and said, how do they do it? Can I maybe copy their style? Because what they do already is good and they did it somehow. Or did you think, can I do it somehow a little bit different?
Well, I think it was exactly the opposite way. When we started with Montes, Chile was a wine country. We produce wines in Chile, but they were, I would say, quite basic. It was more red and white. There was no differentiation among valleys, varieties or vintages. The people, we had a very basic, cheap, inexpensive wine, good quality, but nothing very special. So my decision was, one, work in the exports business, because in the export is where we would get the appreciation of the quality that we were producing. And number two, we had to do everything different of what was being made in Chile. So our vision and our motor, the way we move forward, it's innovating and doing new things. So the main reason by which we are a well-known winery in Chile is because our innovation has been amazing. We made a viticulture revolution with new plants, virus-free. We brought clones, we brought rootstocks. We planted places where no one else planted before, and always aiming to quality. So the reason why we are so unique in our country is exactly because we did everything different.
What was your motivation to do it different? Was it to have a good story, or was it to have high quality wines?
I would say that the only way that we thought to succeed was to be different. Doing more of what already was done, it was just doing the same thing in a bigger volume or quantity or whatever. So we thought that's not the way. We want to be totally different. So you have to bear in mind that Chile is a rather new country to produce wines. Chile has been for 400 years producing wines. In Europe, you have been thousands of years producing wines. So there are many new places to plant vineyards. So every vineyard that we have been the first one to plant at that spot. It's Apalta Valley within Colchagua. Then we went to Marchihue, we went to Zapallar, and now I'm in Patagonia. No one else is in Patagonia. I'm the only crazy guy planting in an island in the middle of the ocean in Patagonia. Well, no one else never thought of this. So that has been the way to demonstrate the world that we could do very good quality wines out of something totally new in terms of terroir, technology, and philosophy of only working towards quality.
Wow. I just want to pick up your word, terroir. Can you maybe explain, because obviously you also traveled a lot and you saw other wine regions, especially in Europe. What are the main differences between the terroir you have and the terroir compared to like Europe, Germany, Italy in a nutshell?
Geologically speaking, you know, our land, it's mostly formed from the Andes Mountains. There's been thousands of years of erosion. The dirt came to the valleys, coming with cataclysm of floods and things that formed the different valleys. That's one thing. So the soil is different. The second thing that it makes the biggest difference of all is our climate. We are one of the few Mediterranean climate countries that produce fruits and grapes and wines, of course. We are a very narrow and long country, totally exposed and influenced by the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean has a blessing. We have the Humboldt Current. It's a very cold stream of water that goes from Antarctic all the way up to Peru and then comes back. So this brings us a very cold ocean and a very cold breeze blowing from the ocean towards the land, inland. And then we have the Andes, you know, very high mountains up to 4,000 meters high, 12,000 feet, you know, and by night it happens the opposite, you know, the cold air from the Andes, it comes all the way down to the valley. So we have cold air blowing from the ocean during daytime and cold air blowing from the Andes during nighttime. So this makes a very special condition that you don't find in Germany or in France or in Italy. It's quite different. Yes, we do produce wines up to the level of very, very high quality wines from Europe. There has been many blind tasting of different companies. We did also some blind tasting of our wines against great numbers and great, you know, names of all around the world. And we appear to be as good as some Bordeaux or Tuscan wines or Napa Valley wines. So we have been demonstrating that Chile does have the potential to create amazing wines.
What was the biggest struggle, the biggest challenge for you, though, to make wines there?
Well, it was mainly because we are four partners, you know, passionate guys, none of us being rich or coming from rich families, just middle-class guys with a good, training in the university and a big passion for wine. So the biggest problem was to cope with the demand of the market, because in a very short period, people understood that Montes was producing different wines and quality wines from Chile. So our demand grew like crazy. So we had to run to catch up, with the demand. And that was hard because we were totally unknown. We didn't have the support of the banking system. So we have to put our own resources into the company to make it grow. Well, today the scenery is totally different, of course. We're double A class, in front of the banks. Now everyone is wanting to lend us money. But we had to succeed first, to get all that. So that financial, situation to achieve what we were wanting to achieve, I would say was the hardest. In terms of wine production and quality and even market, we could control them very quickly from the very beginning. The problem was, enough financial resources to go the speed in which we would really have wanted. So we had to go slowly.
Slowly but steady.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sustainable, probably.
Well, of course, sustainability is one of the main pillars in which we concentrate, is our inspiration. My thought is that if there's a company in which no one is caring about the world, the global warming, how much we're devastating, our dear world, it means that this guy doesn't understand where we are. I think that it's very important to add yourself, to being sustainable or organic or whatever. But we must keep the world clean and move forward. So we are very sustainable in all sorts. We take care of the health of our vineyards without using pesticides. We take care of our people, and that, Daniel, is so important. Wine is made by people. It's not only a vine and a cluster and a bottle and a cork. There's men between there. There's human beings. So we must take care of our people, have them well paid, on time, have a concern for their families, for their kids, to help them to study universities and so on. So it's a very key thing that we need to take care of. And then having a certain profit, you need to be a successful company to be able to project yourself to the future and make your company grow and give good salaries and incorporate more people, as a hand labor and so on. So you need to be a successful company to make things happen.
I think no one else knows this better than you, because in the age of 39, you were exactly on this point when you had no job, when you had no money, and you lost your job. So, and now, of course, you want to make sure and be responsible for all those families and for all those people who came into the region to work for you. You made it possible.
Totally. Yeah, correct.
Wow, I see this. Yeah, it's a strong emotional bonding also. Viña Montes for sure is mostly well known for the red wines. I think, of course, you also have beautiful Sauvignon Blancs and other beautiful white wines. And I think, especially in the beginning, the red wines were in the focus. Let's talk a little bit about the autochthon grape cultivars, which are really interesting. For example, Canemer, which is a survivor of the phylloxera. Mm-hmm. What's your approach to those grapes?
Well, Cabernet, I think, is an amazing grape. It's a beautiful grape. We use it a lot. I think that Cabernet found its real home in Chile. As you well know, phylloxera killed all the vines in the middle of the 19th century in Europe. And Cabernet, being a Bordeaux variety, was totally killed and devastated. But the Bordelais, the winemakers and the viticulturists, they didn't want to recover the Cabernet because it was not performing well. The climatic conditions, the soil, everything in Bordeaux especially, wasn't well suited for the Cabernet. But in Chile, it got, exactly what the Cabernet needs. A good soil, not so deep and so fertile. You got the perfect climate, and we understand the grape now. So we are far to say that Cabernet is the flagship of Chile. I think that Cabernet Sauvignon is the real one. But Cabernet, it's growing. It has a very interesting curve, a very steep curve of of new plantations and new wineries developing Cabernet in different styles. So we appreciate a lot this grape, and it's been one of the most successful. Now, there are other varieties that are pretty old, ancient varieties that already existed in Chile, and we have been kind of rediscovering it. Let's talk, for example, of the Carignan or the Cinsault that is planted in the southern part of Chile. I think that with the modern technology and very passionate winemakers, we're doing amazing good wines out of Carignan, Cinsault, Yeah, that's another angle. We're not selling too much of those wines, but it's a kind of the cherry of the cake. It demonstrates how innovative and how brave we are to go and do things, plant new vineyards in new valleys, pick the old vines that were totally forgotten and revive them again and make those wines very interesting of Asian varieties. Even the Carmenere is a discovery of the 1985. It's rather new. And in only, 25 or 30 years, we made out of this unknown variety, we did something so good. Carmenere today is a big player in our arena. So I think we have had the skills, and I mean all the winemakers, not only my merit. I think the new winemakers coming on stream, they're also very willing to do things, to innovate, and very passionate as well.
Aurelio, imagine I'm a young winemaker now. I go to Chile, and I want to make a winery, a brand new winery. I have a lot of money. I have time, and I come to you and I say, Aurelio, you have so much experience. Can you give me one advice to raise this winery? What would be your advice for me?
I will tell you, put all the money you have in the bank and don't use it for this new adventure. I think it's the wrong way to go. If you bring a lot of money and you do your vineyard, you build a winery and so on, and then after that you go and try to sell the wine, it may be a big failure. I know many cases of rich people that wanted to do it that way and it didn't work. I think that what Montes did, it's a case of study in many universities today, in Thunderbird, even in Harvard and in some Chilean wineries. We developed a different model. First of all, we bought, the grapes that I knew because I was a winemaker working in Chile for 16 years. So I went to the correct places to buy grapes. But we rented a small winery. We did the wines. And first of all, we built our market. Don't start the other way because we will have a lot of money put it there, that would be gaining some interest in a bank or in someplace else. And in the meantime, build your image, your wine in another way. Outsourcing is a good way to start. And as soon as you got, your market already a little bit built, you can start planting your little vineyards and do your winery, with a lot of austerity. Don't go too far. Just go little by little, and you will get, the real success. And normally, when young people ask me this, I tell them, I will tell you a very nice sentence that reveals this. Success is like a butterfly. If you try to catch it, you will never catch it. If you stay still, it will land on your shoulder. So stay still, be smooth, don't go that far. Money doesn't solve everything. You need to build your reputation and then put your money in your business. Before that, leave it in the bank.
Maybe let's talk about the dry farming. Yeah. So you don't have a lot of water in Chile. It's probably the most important resource you have there. How do you handle this? What is the biggest challenge about it?
It's a huge challenge. I would say it's the main problem that we're facing. In the case of Montes, I can tell you my story of dry farming. About 10 years ago, maybe, I realized that something was happening. We were facing some droughts. The world was warming up. So I decided 10 years ago to start a little bit of a research, how to save some water without deteriorating the plant or getting, bad grapes. So I started with a very extreme project in which I just stopped irrigating a little part of the vineyard. Of course, it wasn't all of it. It was just a small parcel. And I told my people, I want to know how hell is. If someday I don't have any more water, I want to be prepared for that. I don't want to react when this comes. I want to know it before. So let's stop irrigating a certain, parcel. What we did, and the vine, of course, didn't work at all. It nearly died. So I say, okay, this is not the solution. So we must find a solution to bring some water to the vine to allow the plant to live and create, clusters and good wines. So then we started to work, in good technology of irrigation. We added some very special drippers in our dripping lines. So we went dripping, not gravitational irrigation, but only dripping. Then we started to work with the length of the canopy. The natural length of a canopy in Chile, because of the climate of the soil, can get up to 2 meters, and that's too much. You don't need to keep 2 meters of a shoot full of leaves that they lose water, they perspirate. So we started diminishing the canopy, and we reached a point until maybe 80 to 90 centimeters long, very, I would say, short canopies, not less than 7 to 8 leaves, could ripen properly, the cluster. So then we started diminishing, the addition of water to the vine until we reached the point in which we are today, and I will give you a couple of numbers. In the Chilean normal standard viticulture, people are using 4.5 million liters of water per hectare. That's a huge amount of water to make a vine grow. So with all the technology that we're using, we went down to 2,800 cubic meters, so nearly half, close to half, not really half, but close to half. With all this technology of drip irrigation, short canopy, and getting, controlled yield, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You cannot produce tremendous amount of volume per hectare and don't irrigate. If you want to produce big amount of grapes, you need a lot of water. But if you control your production in lower yields, that means quality. On the other hand, you can diminish a lot, your irrigation. And I will give you one example that is very clear, and it demonstrates how big, how far we have get. With the saving of the water that we are doing in all our hectares, we have about 700 hectares of vineyards. With all the saving of the water that we have been producing, we could supply a little town of 15,000 people in a full year for the needs of 15,000 people. So that reveals, you say, well, I'm saving 1 million liters. Well, okay, and what? But what I'm saving is enough for 15,000 people for one full year. I say, wow, that's a huge amount of water. So we're very satisfied, where we have what we have reached. I don't know how much more can I improve this, but at least up to now, we're very satisfied of what we obtained.
Are you also inspiring the other wineries around you to do the same?
Totally. We're going to seminars. We have a very open, system. We tell everyone what we're doing. Actually, next week we have a seminar in which we are the main speakers in terms of what we are doing to save water. So yeah, we are opening our experience to everyone so they can follow our steps.
Wow, that's amazing. Considering this technology, the technology that gets better and better and better. In November last year, we introduced OpenAI, ChatGPT. It's so much progress right now. It's incredible. I saw a lot of wineries using already like drones and AI in the wineries to improve the process and to be much more efficient. Are you using like very modern technology also?
Well, we are incorporating, the drones. We are always, reading a lot and learning the last and learning about the last technology. So yes, in every little aspect we are improving. There's no magic in between. There are little tricks that you can use with different products or avoiding to use some products. The dry farming, the early picking, so many little details that, yes, we are using them all to achieve what we want to achieve without sacrificing the quality of our wine. Our main target, Daniel, it's quality. It's the only way to prevail on time. If you go to low prices, you can be swept out of the market by anyone else that will supply cheap wines and will just move you out of the market. You know, we do a lot of hillside plantation. We were the first ones in Chile who dared to plant hillsides. For example, we're using, with the drones, if we must add any product, fertilizer or whatever, we're using a lot of drone to make the sprayings, you know, in the hillsides. And again, in terms of winemaking, in terms of water usage, we are very, very upfront in that technology. And at the level of the winery, of course, we're using the best tools. We have a gravity flow winery. We don't add any sort of product to the wines. This is just a natural wine. Of course, we add sulfur. It's not a natural wine. We do the wine the best we can. You know, we're using the best barrels, you know, we can, and so on. So in every corner of technology, we are very concerned and follow the modernity that you can find today in the world.
I think it's also important to keep the balance between tradition and innovation, which you're obviously doing. Let's talk about the music in the vineyard and in the cellar. Is it true that you're playing like classical music there?
Yeah, well, we are, you know, a winery. Again, it's something totally different to the rest of the wineries in Chile, and I would say in the world. A winery is Feng Shui inspired. This Asian philosophy in which you put natural things like the stone, the wood, the water, the natural light, the sun, in a certain way that it brings a very nice place to work, people feel safe, and so on. So our winery is totally Feng Shui. Now, in the barrel room, I got Gregorian chants playing the whole day to the barrel. So you go into the barrel room, which is a beautiful spot, and you feel you're coming into a sacred place. You want to sit down with a glass of wine, close your eyes, and just stay for hours there, you know, enjoying the peace, the wine, the smell of the room, and so on. So we do that for our top wines. We don't do it in the vineyards, but we do it in our barrel cellar. And people ask me very often, what's the effect of the music on the wine, the vibrations of the music on the wine? And I tell you, you know, I will be very honest with you. I have no idea what is the effect of the music on the wine. But I can tell you something that, in my opinion, is more important. It does make a very important effect on human beings. So our workers, our people, our winemakers, even our tourists, when they come, they are so much positively affected by this peace, music, wine, the flavor of the room, that our workers do a much better job with a lot of efficiency, being very careful for what they do. It's a place that you don't want to throw a paper to the floor. It's neat, it's clean, it's perfect. So wine is made by men. It's so important, the human touch here, the way you do everything, when you top the barrels, when you do the sampling for the tasting, when you rack out the wine of the barrel. It must be done with so much love and tender care. And the music does bring a lot of that tender loving care to the people.
Also, love is a vibration. Everything is vibration. It's so interesting because if you look at the human body, we are mostly water. So the whole human body is just water, and grapes and juice is also water. And scientists already proved that vibration and energy and also words of vibration have an impact on the structure of the water. If you watch this on a microscope or something like that, you can see if you put a different vibration on the water, it changes the structure. It becomes coherent.
Absolutely.
When a water is coherent, it's like a snowflake. It's like this.
It's a crystal.
Like, this is perfect, and this is balance. This is harmony, and this is actually what we are looking for in wines. We are looking for balance, and we are looking for harmony. And if we can impact this by vibration, by love, then we should do it. That's my opinion. And I had this topic many times with other wineries which are harvesting biodynamic and stuff, also with Rudolf Steiner, with the cosmic, with the stars, with the moon. If you look to the moon, the moon is moving our ocean. It's moving the Atlantic, the water, so much impact. And if you look at the Woodstock, the water goes up and down, and you can use this to prune or to harvest and to use it for your advantage. So I'm pretty sure that you already work like this, which makes a huge difference.
So it makes an impact, mostly in the fluids of people. For me, wine is so much linked to a human being. The way you touch the wine, the way you treat it, is like a baby. You need to be very tender when you're doing wine.
Absolutely. That makes the difference. You can be a huge industry, just roboting some wines and make wines which are similar, very similar. You can drink them, no problem, but they are not special. They don't have an impact on you.
Totally.
And
Yeah, agree.
in my opinion, if you drink a well-balanced wine, which was treated with love, respect, you don't get headache or anything. It feels like this wine is good for me. The body knows, okay, this wine is actually, I mean, it's still alcohol, but it's better for your body and for your mind, in my opinion.
Totally agree. Totally.
Are there any European winemaking practices that have influenced your work in Chile?
Well, at the beginning of my career, of course, as I told you at the beginning, I came to the Catholic University in Chile, and I studied agronomy and enology. And my teachers were mostly French teachers coming from Bordeaux, mainly Bordeaux. I have good friends in Bordeaux that were my teachers. So I have a lot of influence of the Bordelais system to produce wines. And I'm a deep lover of Bordelais wine more than Burgundy. I appreciate more Bordeaux than Burgundy. I know that Burgundy is trendy today and everyone wants to have Pinot Noirs. In my case, I'm a lover of Bordeaux, and I was pretty much influenced, with the European technology in those days. And of course, on life, you start to use that base, and then you make your own variations of that technology that suits better with your style. But yes, the platform in which I started my winemaking is totally French.
Oh, probably Bordeaux because it's Cabernet, right?
Yeah, of course. In variety in Chile.
Is it something you compare yourself a little bit with Bordeaux?
Well, you push me to tell you a story here. Because, in 1996, sorry, I did my first Bordeaux blend in Montes, because I was so happy with all the Bordeaux varieties, Cabernet, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. So I decided to do my own French blend with our grapes in Chile and our wines from Chile. And I did a Bordeaux blend that is an 80% Cabernet Sauvignon, it's a 10% Cabernet Franc, 5% Merlot, and 5% Petit Verdot. So we did the wine, 18 months in French oak barrels, 70% new, 30% used barrels. And the result was fantastic. It's been one of the most highly reputed wines that we produce in Montes. So in the year 2010, we got a very good article on the New York Times, in the newspaper in New York, about how good was this Montes M. It's called the name Montes Alpha M. And there was a very good article. So we were pretty much encouraged to prove that our wine could stand in front of the European wines with a lot of dignity and play a decent and a good role. So, having said that, we did a blind tasting in LA, Los Angeles, California, with 16 very prestigious, sommeliers of the region. And we tried totally blind. No one knew what was drinking. And we tried Chateau Lafite, Chateaubriand, Sassicaia, Oenology, Opus One, and Montes Alpha M. So we did the tasting. That was a lot of fun. And at the end, we unveiled all the bottles to know which is which. And the winner was Chateau Lafite, which I think it's logical and it's fair. So Chateau Lafite #1 and Montes M #2. So we were so happy, proud that we beat Haut-Brion, Sassicaia, Oenology, and Opus One. And as I say, for me it was even better to be the second and not the first, because if by any chance I would have been #1, no one would have believed me. They say, "Oh no, you paid for this. This is not true, not possible." But being the second one, I admitted that there are better wines than we produce, so that validated my experience. So we're happy that we became second and not first. But it was the reason of a lot of pride for us.
I love this. It reminds me a little bit of the Napa Valley thing.
Yeah, the Berlin tasting. Yeah, yeah.
Now I have a tricky question for you. Maybe you already mentioned it, but maybe you have something more. Can you share one of your most memorable experiences in your winemaking career?
Wow, it's hard to say. You know, creating the all the different levels of the icon wines has been a great experience. We have 3 different icon wines that are at the top of the pyramid in our winery, which is the Montes Alpha M, the one I told the story of this blind tasting. We have the Folly, that I'm full of pride with this because we were the first ones in Chile to bring Syrah to Chile. It was totally unknown variety. We brought it from France, good clones and good, rootstocks. We planted in the hillsides, the same as Rhone Valley, and we created an amazing wine that's been very successful. And the third icon wine that it's fantastic, actually, it's a Carmenère-based icon. It's called the Purple Angel, and it's 46% of a warm region of Carmenère, 46% of the cooler region of Carmenère as well, and an 8% of Petit Verdot. So this blend made such a wonderful wine that today we sell as much Purple Angel than the addition of all the Chilean icon wines. If you add all the wineries, all the addition of the icon wines they sell is the same volume that we sell of only one label, which is Purple Angel. So it's been an amazing, success and amazing story. So thanks God.
You are growing vines on so many different places all across Chile, especially Patagonia. What is the most exciting place for you?
Well, today's Patagonia, of course. Well, Colchagua Valley, we were the first ones to plant hillsides, brought new clones and new varieties. Then we moved to the coast of Colchagua, where we get one of the best wines near the coast in Marchihua. Then we went to the north. But today the biggest challenge is Chiloé. And the story of Chiloé comes because I love sailing. It's one of my hobbies. I sail a boat down in Patagonia. And I've been sailing for years and years. And every time I went sailing in these beautiful channels in our maritime Patagonia in Chile, always looking at the island, I say, well, someday I will plant a vineyard here. I got a dream to make it come true. So after many, many years in over and over, I decided to plant a little small island in Chiloé, surrounded, of course, by water, which is very good. And I got 7 different varieties there to see which of them cope better with the climatic conditions, the soil, the rain, and everything. So I finished last month my 3rd vintage. The wines are difficult to grow. It's a tough place because of the weather. But we're reaching interesting things. And I'm decided to make sparkling wine out of those grapes because I've got, the freshness, the acidity. I got everything that you need for a good sparkling. I got it in Chiloé. So if I get to do a decent sparkling that would make a certain positive noise in the market, will be my dream that came true. So it's a challenge that I'm working hard for it.
Which style of sparkling wine you want to create?
Well, it would be, a Champenois would be a bottle, a bottle fermentation. I would say at least 3 or 4 years of autolysis of the yeast inside to allow the yeast to express and to produce the autolysis that is so good. And of course, it will be a very fresh wine because I got a very good acidity down in the Patagonia. It will be low alcohol, maybe 11.5, 12 at the most. A fresh wine and very, let's call it champagne flavor, very, very toasty bread and all that good things that we love in a good sparkling.
It must be beautiful to welcome your guests in a few years with a sparkling wine.
Yeah, of course.
Celebrate.
And the place is unbelievably beautiful. The man in charge. In this region, we are the only vineyard, the first one to plant a vineyard. And the guy in charge, he used to be a fisherman. And what people do there, they do fishing and farming, fish farming. But for this guy, it's called Juanito. Juanito had to learn about the viticulture after being a fisherman for many years. And he learned a lot about it. So again, for the community, we're doing something very special because people are looking to us as a potential new sort of activity instead of fishing, moving into winemaking. So People love what we're doing, and we have a very good relationship with the people of the island.
I can imagine. Probably everyone around you who is a child wants to work one day for you in your winery.
I hope, yeah. I think so, yeah.
So what's next for Viña Montes? You did so much in the past, and of course you do the sparkling wine, but what's the future of Viña Montes?
It's hard to tell. You know, I'm always looking and looking. Now, actually, I'm sitting in Argentina. I'm not in Chile. I'm in our winery in Caiquén. I flew this morning, and I'm sitting in our Argentina winery in Caiquén. So this is one of the crazy things we did in 2002. So every time I move around the world, I'm looking for new things. I'm thinking maybe of doing something. I got a good company, good friends in Barossa Valley in Australia, and it would be very nice to make up a sort of a joint venture in one wine, in one cuvée, maybe put together, you know, the Chilean Cabernet with the Barossa Cabernet or whatever. I got good friends in Portugal, so if I look abroad, out of Chile, I would say that I'm aiming Portugal and Australia, thinking to move a little bit out of the country. You learn so much. It's such a challenge. It's so nice. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we can tackle one more topic, which is, of course, you probably hear this question many, many times. Let's talk about the climate change. How has climate change affected your vineyards and winemaking processes during the time?
It does. At the beginning, I thought it wasn't that bad, but as time goes by, I think that it affects more and more. And this is pushing us to the southern part of Chile to plant vineyards in a more friendly spot, you know, where we get better temperatures and some rain. So, yeah, the wine industry, it's moving smoothly and very slowly, but it's moving to the south. And, of course, all this technology that we have been developing in terms of less water, canopy management and all that, it has to do with the global warming, of course. So we had the need to investigate more technology to be able to cope with it. I'm praying that this would be a cycle more than a thing that it will stay forever. I'm hoping that this would be a cycle, which I don't really know, just praying. And but it's I would say one of the biggest issues today in the winemaking industry, how to deal with this thing that is coming in a short period, because you can't wait too long, because your vines will be dead. The desert will come where the vineyards were planted. It will be a desert very shortly.
It's, and also the weather extremes get crazier and crazier. Like yesterday, we had here, all over Germany, huge thunderstorms with hailstorms, and also in certain areas, little tornadoes, which is totally unusual for Germany.
Imagine how crazy, hail in the middle of the summer. Crazy.
It's the whole day. It's super hot. You cannot breathe anymore. It's like more than 30 degrees in Germany now. And then you get these huge thunderstorms, early rain, but a lot of hail and a lot of lightnings. It's like the sky is crazy.
We have to change our way of life. I think that we every citizen of the world should have the concern and live accordingly. We should be very careful in what we do, the energy consumption, the waste that we produce every day and everything.
Sustainability is key. It's so important. And it's not only up to a big winery or something like that. It's up to us. It's like for everybody.
Everybody.
And when you reuse something, do you really need to wash everything like 10,000 times? Or is it, save a little bit of water?
Totally. I totally agree. And we are much into that. Very much into that.
Yeah. I really loved it. Especially with your standing and your reputation, you're like a role model for all the other wineries around you, not only in Chile, but, global. And thank you for doing this job. It's really important.
Yeah, I do it gladly. Yeah, of course.
We talked about the red wines and everything, and I'm also curious about the white wines. What's your most interesting white grape variety?
I think that, we mostly grow Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc in Chile. We have some little things like Albarino or some others, Torrontés and so on. But I would say that the two most important are Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. And Chile's got so much privilege in that because we have the two things that help to make amazing white wines. We have, the Pacific Ocean. We're producing amazing Sauvignon Blancs in the Pacific Ocean. With this cold breeze that comes, the vine takes long to grow and long to ripen. And when things go slowly, they are so much better. So we have, I would say that today Sauvignon Blanc has the reputation as good as New Zealand. Okay, it's a different wine compared to Loire, the old world style. But it's so much, looked for among especially young people. They love, this sort of very flavored, easy drinking, very fresh. It's a wine to drink and to share with friends or to pair it with seafood and so on. So Sauvignon Blanc is great. And Chardonnay, we're growing it in both places, both near the coast. And don't forget that we have the Andes Mountains, that is a 4,000-meter high, mountain that goes all the way up. So I'm doing a little bit of a research with Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay, in the hillsides up in 1,000 meter, and we can produce amazing, very good wines, totally different from the one that we produce on the coast. So I think that Chile is a privileged place to produce very good whites in different styles in such a narrow country.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I really love the Chilean Sauvignon Blancs. Very nice style, very beautiful, very aromatic, fresh, beautiful wines.
Totally, yeah.
Do you have any question I missed? Like, do you want to talk about a certain topic at the end?
Well, I think we covered everything. The story of Montes, the story of myself, dry farming, Patagonia, future. I think we touched very much all what we have in our memory. So feel free, Daniel, if you have any question that you're missing and you recall it later on, we can solve it, either by this same platform or in a written way or whoever.
Beautiful. I thank you so much, Aurelio. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your experience, for your knowledge, and for the job and responsibility you take in this world.
Yes, Daniel, for me, talking of wine, speaking of wines, is something so much lovely that I could spend hours and hours. And I don't have to think, because I lived a life that I have gone through so many things that it just comes out from my soul. I don't have to read or think. It just comes automatically.
That's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Because wisdom is when it's lived. I love it.
Okay, Daniel. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for this time. Okay, Daniel. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for this time.
Me too. Thank you, Aurelio. Have a good time in Argentina.
Yeah, lots of work here. Thanks so much.
Adios.